All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen so that you guys can see. You can see the document. Get to the document. All right. So, like I said, if you have any questions, just post them up into the chat, and I will get to them at the end. But let's get started here. So, the first thing that I think is kind of important, and this probably gets it gets less worrisome as we go along, but just kind of keep in mind that toast is not micros, and just because something was in toast or you did something a certain way in toast doesn't mean that that's going to be the way going forward. So this is a new system. We spent a lot of money and a lot of hours putting it in. It is more efficient and it will be better. I think it is better, and we will get to a point where all these questions are answered, and I think it runs pretty smooth. Micros had its own problems as well, so just kind of keep in mind that sometimes you have to shift your thought process a little bit, or put a little more time into learning it, I guess, maybe, at least initially. I think after a while, and we've seen this with the other restaurants that already have it, is very short period of time, all of the learning curve is very quick, and everybody picks things up pretty quick. So in the beverage section, what you have is a handful of keys, and I can actually show you your POS in live time. So in the beverage world, you have the spirits, the specialty cocktails, NAs, the wines, the beers, coffee drinks, and to-goes. So mostly what is being used are obviously going to be the spirits and the cocktails and the wines and whatnot. And you have these two keys here. And I just wanted to kind of talk about the difference between the two keys. The specialty cocktails are the cocktails that are on your menus. And these are the more common, maybe off menu, but more common and sort of Max Fish specific cocktails. Like Zach asked me to put the Green Hornet on yesterday, and a couple other things that I know are sort of historical cocktails there. So those things, just for efficiency's sake, those cocktails would appear here. And you can see the Green Hornets here, London Biscuit, variety of things that are on your menu or are topical. I also added the sangrias. So you have an option for red, white, and there's actually a rosé one on the back screen here. So you have all of these available to you. In the cocktail button, this is more of the overall sort of library of cocktails. And there may be things in here that you've never seen at Max Fish or heard of, and there may be some old ones like a Brandy Alexander or whatnot. So these are kind of the historical cocktails. And this is the general library that we have across the group. So every restaurant out there sees this. So specialty cocktails is only seen as a menu item, as a menu group at Max Fish. This cocktail button is actually shared amongst all the restaurants. The one thing I will point out is if you have a cocktail like a Boulevardier, this is a standard cocktail recipe. So it's going to be used with basically our house selection spirits. And I have a little section at the bottom of the document that talks about that. But if we have a Boulevardier or a Negroni or a Manhattan or something that is on your menu as a seasonal option, let's say it is, you've got a fall old fashioned or whatever, we're going to list it as a fall old fashioned, and that would kind of go into your specialty cocktail button. But a standard old fashioned, you order differently. Okay, and I think you all kind of see that. Just want to. Somebody's making noise. Everybody could just mute themselves. That'd be great. Go back to my document here. So cocktails versus specialty cocktails, just realize that there's a difference between those two menus. And now the mod keys, which is something that probably is a little bit different for you guys. This is, instead of in micros where we have basically like really one big liquor mod screen that kind of was all encompassing, I've broken it into a bunch of different mod screens so that when you go to order, like use an Absolute, let's do order an Absolute Watch, you have a variety of mod screen subcategories, I guess is the best way to describe them. So you have drink mods, mixers, drink sets, garnishes, and then splash mods. So I'm going to go through each one of these as we talk about it. So drink mods are pretty much self-explanatory. These are all the things that would come up for kind of like a standard drink modification. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. If there's anything that's missing from here, obviously communicate that to me. I've added some things in this week for you guys that are sort of special or unique to you, but maybe could be used everywhere. So this again is a mod screen that's shared amongst all the restaurants. Mixers, this is a little bit of a different take than what we used to have, but these are all the things that would be a mixer. So if you ordered an absolute, cranberry, you would order absolute and then come in here and modify it with cranberry juice. And you can see that that's what pops up over here. Drink sets.
Oh, this is so fucking boring.
This is a slightly different take again on what was done in the past. And the idea here is that many people will come in and ask for a drink, and they may just say, hey, give me a Beverage or a Cape Cod or whatever. And often what your response is, or should be, is, well, what kind of vodka or whatever the spirit that goes into that drink is, because people often want to direct, as we know, their choice in their spirit. And so this gives you the option to, if I go back to my vodka here, somebody comes in and says, I want a Beverage, that's fine, or whatever the drink is going to be, typically you would order the wash version of that drink, or whichever was appropriate. Let's say it's an absolute wash. And then you would go in here and select Beverage. And so the spirit is often going to lead with the order, because that's what you've prompted it to be, by asking the question to the guest of what kind of vodka or what kind of tequila or whatever the might be. So you're going to start with the spirit and then follow with a modification. In this case, the drink sets are sort of these standard drink combinations that are relaying back to the bartender that you want absolute wash. That tells them 1.5 ounces of absolute, make it a Beverage, okay? And we don't really upcharge for these because the wash price covers that. So everything should be here. And it should be fairly self-explanatory. If there's anything that doesn't make sense, or if you need additions to this, let me know. I know I've added a couple things here this week, and we can add as many as need be, okay? Garnishes should, I think, be self-explanatory. Again, if there's anything that's missing off of this list, just let me know, please. And then splash mods. Splash mods is something that's come up a little bit. These are a combination of both alcoholic and non-alcoholic splashes. So you may end up with a request for a splash of cranberry on top of some sort of drink, but somebody might have a need for a splash of amaretto or whatever. So there's both the alcoholic and non-alcoholic options in here. Somebody, I think Zach asked me yesterday for some chartreuse, so I added chartreuse in here yesterday. But if there's something that's missing, again, please just let me know. I've tried to cover most of the things. There may be some options in here that I kind of scratch my head out a little bit sometimes, but occasionally they do come up. The one thing that I would say is that I never really want to see, and we really shouldn't do, like a drink, somebody mentioned this to me last week, but a drink that would involve a splash and a splash of the same item, just to kind of get the portions right. Most of the spirits, if they have a price attached to them, I know the amaretto has $1.50. If we're adding in, I don't understand why there really shouldn't be. I'm going to fix this, because there really shouldn't be a multiple choice option on here. You really should never actually add a splash amaretto. That's a little extraneous. If there's a drink that actually should have more amaretto in it than what just the splash is, which is typically a 1/2 ounce, then we probably want to communicate that to the bartender some way, rather than just building on here, because then you end up having a very expensive drink that we don't really want to kind of build in. So let's just make sure that we're not adding on too much here, just to try to get to a drink recipe that's appropriate, because that's what I've often found being really building expensive drinks, and it's unnecessary. Okay, so that's kind of the standard group of. Let me get rid of that. There we go. That's kind of the standard group. Let's see if I missed anything here. So drink mods, I got mixers, splashes, garnishes, drink sets. And you can read through this document if there's anything else that comes up. So that's kind of the standard grouping of modifications. Is there anybody who has a question or a thought or a comment on these?
So I guess I have a question. It's probably easily to answer. So I noticed, like, how you said in the drink sets or modifiers where you have like cranberry and stuff like that, it doesn't put the upcharge on for the cocktail. But I know that it's in for splash cranberry when you do have the charge, I would assume, from the splash screen. Is there a specific way to know when is it, make sure that it's appropriate to charge versus to use the modifier that doesn't charge?
So hang on a second. So you're saying that there's a splash, let's say you said cranberry. So
Yes.
let's find the cranberry here.
So I saw that splash cranberry in that splash screen, but
That is,
also then
yeah.
I think it was in the drink modifiers. I believe I saw it, or something where it doesn't charge upcharge.
Hang on a second. So you're talking about cranberry here?
I think so. I think that's the one I saw.
It would be in mixers. It would be here. So it doesn't charge here. That cranberry, I think that's kind of a carryover from before. That really shouldn't be there. So the mixer is when you would do, like, I want a vodka cranberry, right? Kind of a weird drink-ish, I guess, maybe, but sometimes somebody might order that. We don't really charge for the mixer. Like, if you want a gin and tonic, we're not actually charging you for tonic to add onto your gin, but the price that we want to charge you is kind of built into the base price of the spirit. In the case of the splash cranberry, I'm probably going to remove that 50 cents because it doesn't really need to be there. And I'll go through and review some of those things. So that's
it makes sense if somebody orders like a club soda and cranberry. It makes sense to have the upcharge for it. Then I would assume for like the 50 cents.
I mean,
but that's the only thing I can think.
But I think the idea, just to kind of break it down to what you're really asking, is this mixers is not a splash. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And while it might seem counterintuitive to not have a charge on this part of it, like I said before, we already have what we want to charge for this drink out of the $8 that are built into the wash portion of the absolute in this case. And as you said, maybe it makes sense to add 50 cents onto a soda cran. I kind of feel like, even though the soda is only probably, we're charging $2 or something for the soda, it's probably not necessary. I guess somebody else, if you wanted to do it the other way, you could go order a cranberry juice with soda, and it'll probably charge you like, $3.50 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look at these and I'll think about that. I may ultimately leave the 50 cents. I just want to make sure like all the splash juice combinations make sense for a charge. But yeah, I mean, if somebody's adding splash cranberry, splash pineapple, splash, grapefruit juice, orange juice, whatever, should they have charges on them? I think they, it's a little tricky because I find in some of the restaurants they've been added, and there's sometimes different prices. I think they should be uniform, obviously, and they are because of toast now. But I got to think about that one. So thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, I think you kind of mostly covered it, but just to add on to that, I don't know if there's an option to only have the splash cranberry, or especially for the fresh squeeze like grapefruit orange juice, available only in the non-alcoholic beverage screen. I obviously don't understand the programming on that, but I think
let's go back and look at it real quick here. So you want to go to non-alcoholics and give me an example. What do you want to order? You want to order iced tea splash cranberry or something?
We have regulars, as a matter of fact, that always get either iced tea splash orange juice or splash grapefruit, which are a fresh squeeze.
Iced tea, and then I want a splash of grapefruit juice. Yeah, so here, like what I was talking about before with Megan, is like, I would probably come back here and look at this, and there probably should be a charge on grapefruit because that's kind of an expensive item, and it should probably have a splash in there. So I'm going to go through these today, and I'll make sure that they're kind of cleaned up a little bit for you and make sense. But this splash mod key right here is the exact same one that's on all the cocktails. So whether you're in non-alcoholics or you're in the spirits, it's the same group setting. I don't make two different ones. I just attach that modification group to the main menu item, which is your non-alcoholics or your spirits. So they all work the same. So these are all the same, and I'll go through and fix them. Like you could get an iced tea splash of Grand Marnier. That'd be good later on. But and that charges you the extra $2 there. So in that case, it works. But I'll look at these fruit juices and make sure that they all make sense for you guys. Like iced tea splash lemonade. I mean, that actually lines up with the. I mean, it's not really.
But you should have an Arnold Palmer button for that.
Well, you do have an Arnold Palmer button. That's what I'm saying. It actually kind of lines. I think an Arnold Palmer is like 450, right? Yeah, so that lines up. I did one right. All right, so there you go. All right. Any other questions on this before I move on? Okay, cool. So moving to something that's a little bit different is the rocks drink set. So now what I've done is kind of created this subset, and this one is different because it's only available if you order the rocks or the RX option on your spirit brand, whatever that brand is. So just to kind of, I'll click on the screen in a second, but in short, if you want a, you want a Jack Daniel's Old Fashioned, the only way you can get to that Old Fashioned option really is to get to the rocks drink set. And to get to the rocks drink set, you have to order the rocks option in the whiskey. So, actually, I use Bullet Rye here on this example. So whiskey, Bullet Rye, which is what we call the subgroup. Bullet Rye is the brand or the subgroup. It's just the whole thing. And then Bullet Rye item is the rocks. And then you would click on the rocks drink set and then the Old Fashioned. So we can look at it in real time here. I said Bullet Rye, so we'll use Bullet Rye. Come on, there we go. Bullet Rye, okay. So Bullet Rye, we want to order a Bullet Rye Old Fashioned. We have to go to the Bullet Rye and then the Bullet Rye Rocks option here. And on this screen, you have to slide over to get to the rocks drink sets. But once you click on the rocks drink sets option, then your Old Fashioned appears, and that tells the bartender when you send the check in, or you send the order in, that the Bullet Rye Rocks Old Fashioned, and they're going to make you an Old Fashioned out of Bullet Rye. Okay. You also have the option to be able to garnish that, obviously, if you want to throw another type of garnish on there or something. And all of the other drink mods are available to you if you have something that's, needed for whatever the reason might be. Okay. Any questions on that? And that rocks drink set, this combination here, this is attached to, in theory, I've covered almost all of them, I think, is attached to all of the rocks options that you have for all of the brands. It's not just whiskey. So if you're ordering rum, if you're ordering tequila, if you're ordering gin, whatever, that rocks drink set is attached to all of those rocks options within those brands. This list here is what we have currently. If you come up with other things that make sense here, I will add them in. The other day, one of you guys, I think, mentioned on the chat, what if somebody wants a splash of palm in their margarita? I'm like, oh, let's just make a palm margarita. So you have the option to order a standard margarita or now a palm margarita. And if there's another combination that comes up that's kind of a regular item and it makes sense, I will put it in here as an option. So now all you have to really do to get to a palm margarita, because you're going to say to your guest that orders a palm margarita, what kind of tequila would you like? They're going to say, I like Avion Silver. You go to Avion Silver Rocks, slide over to the drink set, and then order your palm margarita. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Is there any questions? You guys have been using this all week, so I think it should be kind of getting, you should be getting used to it at this point. Does anybody have a question on that? You have to think a little bit about what that drink is, perhaps, but the reasoning here is that I want to make sure that the only way you can get here, like Mule is a good example, because in some of the restaurants I would ask a bartender, how much alcohol do you put in a Mule? And they would say 1.5 ounces. And I go to another restaurant, it'd be 2 ounces. My standard for a Mule is 2 ounces of base spirit. And typically the Mule mugs are a little bit larger anyways. You fill it up with ice and then top it up with ginger beer or whatever the specific is on that. And that's your drink. So it's a little bit larger drink. It should have a little bit more alcohol in it. And so you can only order a Mule, like if you want a Tito's Mule or whatever, you actually can only order it by going through the Tito's Rocks to get to the Rocks drink set now. And that also controls the pricing. And on the back side of the system, it helps just kind of control the recipes. So there's usually a couple different reasons why some of this is set up the way it is. Okay, does that make sense? Anybody have a comment, thought? Okay, excellent. All right, martinis. So the martini mod, just like I said with the rocks drink set, is only available when you order the martini option on your brand. So if somebody wants a Beefeater martini, you would click let's go look at it. You would click on Beefeater Martini. It forces you to pick a vermouth. In the case of a martini, you have the dry vermouth or the white vermouths. At Fish, you have Dolan and Cinzano. So you would pick one of those. You can put in the type or style that you want, like dry or bone dry, a dirty martini, add any of these other options, okay? You can pick as many on the screen as you like. So you can say, I want a dry martini with dirty ice, and I want it shaken, okay? So the nice thing, I think before in micros, you couldn't pick multiples, but here in Toast, you can actually pick multiples. And then once you're done with that, you kind of have to get out of it by picking whether you want it up or on the rocks. And the little point here to understand is that our martinis, our drink sizes for the martinis are the same whether you're getting an up martini or a martini on the rocks. Okay, so it's 3 ounces as an overall recipe, depending on how much vermouth you're asking for, but overall it should be 3 ounces, and you just have to pick one of these. So I like it on the rocks, and then I'm going to put some blue cheese olives in it. And if you got somebody who wants like lunch in their martini, you can pick multiples on that as well, and that's what we do. And then you would send it. Okay, so just to kind of go back to my screen here, again, you can only get to the martini mods by going through the martini option on your brand, and it's going to actually force you to pick what vermouth and size and all that kind of stuff before you can kind of send the order in. Okay, and I always like to remind folks that out in the world, the guest's vernacular or description of the drink they're ordering could be a Tito's martini. We all know that typically when somebody's ordering a vodka, especially a vodka martini, they often just want the vodka up. And so in this case, you would use the vodka up button option. Let's go back to that real quick. Absolute, I want a vodka up. The guest asked for a vodka, an absolute martini, but you actually know and have confirmed with them that they just want absolute up. So you'll see that there's no martini drink set in here, but you do have the ability to order pretty much everything else you need through the drink mods. The only thing that's not really here is the dry, but you don't really need that because there's no vermouth. The vermouth is what applies the dry or the bone dry. So everything else should be here. You can get a dirty or an extra dirty. You can get the rocks on the side, etc. Again, if there's something that's missing, please let me know, and I will get it added in here. But this is the same drink mod screen as the other ones. Okay. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, I think. It's pretty much the way we were doing it in micros. All right. A new addition to the lineup is the Cosmo mod. So just like the martinis and whatnot, if your guest is ordering a Cosmo, you ask them what kind of spirit that they would like. They give you, an option. They want Tito's or whatever, and you then would go in and order your drink accordingly. And so on all of these vodkas, you have the option for a Cosmo, and you just like whether like before you order a martini. In this case, it's just a Cosmo. Click on Cosmo. It actually forces you or makes you pick whether or not which triple sec or orange liqueur they would like in there, because we do have multiple options typically. If it's just a standard Cosmo, just pick the triple sec standard. If it is a premium Cosmo with Cointreau, you can add that in. I debated the Cosmo upcharge. We used to, or sometimes there's a thought that there should be an upcharge on that. I may put $1 in here or not, because the spirit is expensive, but we're pretty built in with our pricing on the base product. So I'm not sure I really need to put an additional charge on that Cointreau, but I sort of debate that a little bit. And then again, just the regular set of drink modifications. So the only thing really here is that it forces you to pick what kind of orange liqueur you would like in your Cosmo. So as a server, it would, obviously make sense and behoove you to make sure you know what orange liqueurs you have as an option, and try to steer folks towards the ones that's going to be best for them. Okay. And that's it. It doesn't really give you the option for up on the rocks, because I don't think anybody wants a Cosmo on the rocks. It's usually almost always going to be up as a standard. So there's no really reason to force that. All right. Makes sense. Any questions or thoughts on that? All right, cool. Moving right along. Manhattans and Negronis, I put these together because the attached modifications are exactly the same. And this is very similar, again, to how we had been doing things in micros. So it should be familiar. If you get somebody who would like an old fashioned, I'm sorry, a Manhattan, you would find the spirit. And in the options that you have for that spirit, there is a Manhattan key attached. These are all the whiskeys. There's a Manhattan key. And if somebody wants a Negroni, similarly speaking, and you go into the gins, and there's an option under each gin for a Negroni. Whether or not you pick a Manhattan or a Negroni, it's going to steer you towards this screen here, where you first have to make a choice on your vermouths, and then choose up on the rocks, just like the martinis, garnishes, etc. So we can look at that real quick here. Go back to spirits. We're gonna get a Bourbon Manhattan. I'm gonna get a Blanton's, because we always have Blanton's. Oh, we don't have Blanton's. Booker's. We're gonna get a Booker's Manhattan because we were out of Blanton's. So I'm gonna pick the Booker's key. Again, just you have to make a choice: Carpano or Cinzano. Do Cinzano up on the rocks. I like it on the rocks. This is maybe a little redundant because it's pretty much a standard, but you know, I like a little bit of an orange peel in my. What I'll probably do is put orange. I might put orange peel and then like orange wheel, just so you guys have the options if somebody wants a peel or a wheel or wedge. It's not really wedge; it's usually a wheel. So maybe I'll divide that up a little bit. But you pick a garnish, whatever, and then you can send it on. Okay. Did they just say $28? Or did I have two drinks there? Oh yeah, Booker's Manhattan, $28. I'm gonna double check that. Could actually be right. Okay. All right, and then and again, like I said, the Negroni is the same way. It's going to actually prompt you for the exact same sequence of modifiers, and you go through that. Just as a base knowledge point, all of our Manhattans start with a 2-ounce portion of whiskey and a 1-ounce portion of vermouth. 2-to-1 ratio is classic. And Negronis are 1 ounce, 1 ounce, and 1 ounce of gin, Campari, and then the vermouth of choice that you're going to select. Either can be served up or on the rocks, of course. And there's no other option for a mod to order a Manhattan without going through the process of to the Manhattan button on each of the whiskeys. Okay, so that should be pretty standard, and I think that was the way we were doing things before anyway. So it shouldn't be too unfamiliar to you. Any questions on that one? Okay. So that's pretty much all of the modification screens within the spirits. I think if there's any, if there's any questions on these, all of the spirits are here. The only thing that is maybe a little bit different than from before is we don't have that liqueur and I think it was like O to V buttons. They were sort of separate. I kind of combined everything under one liqueurs option. So if you go into the liqueur world, you have everything in here. So it should all be listed. And many of these things will have a number of options, depending on what they are, for getting a full complement. It might be a little bit extraneous to have, you know, nobody's going to get an Aperol up realistically, but we price it out that way. They're there. I could take them off. I think in a bunch of these, what I've done though, is I've only kept some of these limited to like Grand Marnier. Realistically, people don't really, well, maybe Grand Marnier, you might want a 1 ounce or a splash or something in here, but neat, rocks, and up. Those are kind of the standard combinations. Saint Germain, it's kind of like Aperol. We don't really need a full complement of these items down here, but they're already programmed, so it's fine. I don't think anybody's getting, well, with Sambuca, you know, you can see I only put neat on the rocks because that's typically how somebody's going to want that. So for the most part, these are done really to kind of hit the common combinations of what people would order, not to really be too some of them aren't going to have all the options. And I think that's about it as far as spirits goes. There is a port section. It really kind of, I don't understand why. Well, somebody changed this on me. That's a little bit strange. So I'll clean this up. That shouldn't be like that. I should have just the ports in here. I should just have the ports in here. So I'll fix this. I didn't realize that was the way that was. Interesting. Okay. So Wines should be pretty self-explanatory. You know, everything's here. And actually what I did is use the same, I actually cut and pasted the same names out of Micros and put them over here. So this should look, at least initially, exactly the way it looked in Micros. And what I'm going to do over time is I will clean up some of these names so that when it appears here for you, it will look, it won't be in like the Micros sort of, you know, abbreviated names like this. It'll actually be, you know, this is Fume Blanc from Ferrari Crown, for instance. So I might actually write that out a little bit so it's a little bit clearer for you and a little bit easier to decipher. But it should be pretty standard. It'll look more like this. Primatera Prosecco will be written out like that. Same with glasses. Beer should be pretty much straightforward. Again, no big deals here. And the nice thing is that we can kind of put the counts in here, and if something is not available, you guys don't have Bud Light on hand? Is that just out for some reason? That'd be an interesting one not to have. So they can put a count on here and make it so that you can't order it. One thing that I would suggest, if Megan's still there, one thing that we do, like at the Cooper, for instance, is on wines, whenever they receive wines, they actually put counts on the wines for however many bottles are on hand, so that at any given time, not just when you run out and then you order it and then find out you're out, but at any given time, you can kind of see how many bottles are actually in stock. And, you know, so if you have somebody who orders it, what's that?
So it'll be like a running count when inventory comes in on Monday. We get all the numbers, it's in for the week, and then we have an idea. I can get with Zach on that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Zach could probably handle that. And it's, you know, it's a little extra step that he would have to do when receiving his invoices, but
a lot of time when running around looking for wine.
Yeah, the guys at the Cooper kind of do this, and I never really thought about it before, but it totally makes sense. And they have a lot of territory to cover down there, just to retrieve the bottles and whatnot. So, you know, it would really be nice if someone, you know, you got a group and they say, hey, give me a bottle of Honey Cabernet, and it's like one when you go to order it, and you can go back to the table and say, hey, this is our last bottle. You know, if you guys are going to get something else, you know, let me know. And you already know that information. You already are set with that. So that's something you guys have to do. That's not something that I can do. Well, I can do it, but I'm not going to do it because I'm not there and doing your invoices. But that's a really nice little tip to help the service staff out, I think. But it does mean somebody has to maintain it. So typically the lead bartender, bar manager would update all of those counts on Monday when they're doing inventory and or receiving. It's actually done when you receive the invoice, because if you receive a case of Honey Cabernet, you go back into Toast and you up the count so that, you know, if he bought some Amarone Sant'Antonio this week, he would go back in and say, all right, you know, it's now a 6-pack, and that's what's there. And that would be what would show as a count. So it's really convenient. I think it's a good thing. And I've been suggesting it to the bar managers all along. Red wines by the glass should be pretty straightforward. And as I said before, the beers are pretty straightforward. They're all here, and obviously you guys have run out of these. Now, Megan, on the backside, the internal side, as managers, you guys can actually delist these so that they're not clogging up a screen, because over time what'll happen is you'll end up with a whole bunch of beers that end up with zeros and are pushing multiple screens here. So we can archive these items and just leave the half a dozen that you guys actually have online.
I was trying to figure out how to get something in yesterday, and I'm wondering if it's easier to add, because I know we had like archived items, but is it easier to add them from the desktop screen as opposed to like the tablets downstairs while we're running?
I've never really added stuff from the desktops. I'm sorry, from the tablets. I've always done it from the desktop, so I couldn't really.
I think it's just gonna be easier to do it that way.
I think the desktop's the easy way.
Yeah.
So
you need to change the Sunshine to Little Sip. That's the one I need to do.
Okay, well, send us a note. We can get this switched for you today. The one that I didn't really cover was NonAlcoholics. Well, no, I kind of did, I guess. So there's nothing really in here that should be totally different. You have your drink. I think if you order something, you do get the splash mods and all that kind of stuff. So everything is here. I think I talked about it. I just wanted to make sure I went back over that. And, you know, that's pretty much it. In the to-go sections, which you guys don't have to worry about too much, but sometimes somebody might want to get a bottle of wine to go, or maybe one of the cocktails like the On the Rocks. We still have some of those inventories hanging out. They're all here, just pretty much self-explanatory and easy to answer. The one little thing that I did leave, or I did post on the bottom of this sheet, is just a review of our house selections. This is what a lot of people refer to as the well spirits, but I listed this, and this is what we should have on bar as your wells. And it's kind of good to know because we do have a lot of options. But if somebody orders that standard drink, somebody comes in and just says, "Hey, give me a a sea breeze or whatever," you're going to get made with the well selection. And that, in the vodka case, it's Luxova. Tequila is El Jimador Reposado. A lot of people assume that the well tequila is a Blanco, but I actually use Reposado because I think it's a little more flavor and makes better drinks. So El Jimador is our go-to standard. For Scotch, it's really Dewar's, and rum, it's Plantation Triple Star. Rye whiskey is Old Overholt. Gin in Connecticut is Berkshire Mountain, and bourbon is Evan Williams. So that's all on this document for you guys to see. All right. So that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of cover. And so now hopefully I've answered some of your questions, but if you guys have some specific stuff, I'm going to stop the share. Well, actually I'll leave the share on, but are there any questions in here? There are a couple questions posted here. So in the chat, let's see. Do all the drink mixers have appropriate upcharges? Absolute crayons used to have 50 cents. So like I said before, I'm going to go through all the juices and look at that. But I think we talked about this. So the cranberry from the mixers does not have an addition because we don't upcharge on that, but the splash does. And we talked about that a second ago. Should there be a specific section for a specialty Bloody Mary for the Sunday brunch menu? So typically what we've done, and this is something that I need feedback from you guys for your specialty Bloody Marys, if they're only available on Sundays. And actually, I'm going to look at, well, your brunch menu is not available here, but I can real quick over here. Dun, dun, dun. Toast is right here.
Also, do we have a Bloody Mary Virgin button?
You do. So in your non-alcoholics, if you go to your non-alcoholics, I believe it is called Virgin Mary right here at the end. It's actually the last one on the list. So that's in your non-alcoholics. Okay. If there's other things in here, like the first restaurant that we did was Max Burger. And so the non-alcoholic page was really based on Max Burger. That's why there's a lot of kids stuff in here. But if there's things in here that you don't really need, or maybe you do need, let me know, because we have a lot of different combinations. I kind of prefer to have it standardized. But like I noticed Pelly's here. You guys don't have Pelly, right? You have the machine. So I can actually edit that so it doesn't appear on your screens. I'll take that out. I have the ability to kind of edit by restaurant who has what, so we can take care of that for you. But what I wanted to look up was go back to fish, get a little view into the back here. You had asked about your brunch menu. So the brunch menu, you had asked about Bloody Marys. So what I could do, depending on what you have, I think, is on this menu, the brunch menu that only appears on Sundays, is I could actually put a beverage menu on here that would have your specialty Bloody Marys, the options that are really kind of the things that are only on Sundays. I think actually with Cooper, we have that.
We also have crafts.
Yes, we'll have
Crafts and mimosa, Bloody Marys and mimosas craft on Sundays.
Yeah, that's a good call, Christina. And then along with those mimosa notes, things like if they do, mimosa with grapefruit juice instead of orange, or pomegranate juice instead of orange, should those be separate, or should those be Prosecco splash Prosecco splash grapefruit?
What I would probably do, like this is, so you guys can still see my screen. So this is the Cooper, and you can see that they have a brunch menu just like you do that only appears on Sundays, but I have brunch beverages. And in that brunch beverages, we have the Bloody Marys, and actually the way they have it set up is you start with the spirit and then you can add on everything else. But there's just a modifier there. They have mimosas and then refills and whatnot. So I can add anything I want into these brunch. So what I'll put what I'll put on is a brunch beverage menu option for you that'll appear on Sundays. And maybe Megan, if you can send me a complete list of those things that you were just talking about of what might come up. I would say if it's something that's kind of standard, like mimosa with, you said mimosa like with grapefruit juice. Okay, so if it's something like that, I'll just create it as a key with its own key. So you can just hit, grapefruit mimosa or something like that.
Also, I know way back when it was a debate, so I don't know if it will be this time as well, but how we want to ring Bellinis, so we don't necessarily have a traditional Bellini, if we want an actual button under the pre-done drinks, or if we want to do Prosecco / peach liqueur, so just something for that brunch menu to note, Megan, as well.
Well, I would probably have like a standard Bellini, and then if you had, which is, it's just a standard peach and Prosecco, really. I mean, a standard recipe. We have that actually currently, I think, if you go into your cocktail menu. But I can put the same one actually right on your brunch menu too. And then if you had slight variations of that, what I prefer to do is just rename them. So it would be, Bellini, but then it would be like Bellini, whatever, add your extra name on. And then that makes it faster for you guys, because then you just go in and hit boom, whatever that key is. And in theory, it could be on the menu. What I like to do is take these sort of like things that are sort of the exception cocktails where people have made them up or a special request. And if they become popular enough, it's like we'll create the key and everything in our system, but then put it on the menu and steer people towards that, because somebody might not think about, oh, I'm going to get this with grapefruit. That sounds good and refreshing for the summertime. We put it on the menu. It's like, fine. I know it makes people maybe want to order that more, and squeezing fresh grapefruit is not the bartender's favorite thing to do, but if we're getting a couple extra bucks for it and it makes sense, then why not? Because it's going to be unique and it's going to be interesting to people. So I'd rather drive that out. So we will create a brunch beverage category for you guys. And like I said, Megan, if you can put together a list of things that you guys want, and keep in mind, I can add things anytime. I mean, all I have to do is literally like, this is where I do it. I go into Max Fish and I go into your menu editor and I can put whatever I want. I can get crazy, I could put all kinds of stuff in here if you want. It's just going to make more screens and more things for you to flip through, but I can make it happen. All right. So hopefully that covers that brunch. The Cosmo mods only pop up with vodka. Okay.
No,
Gin Cosmo. Okay. So
that's a random one.
That is random. I mean, it's the first time I've really ever heard that.
Okay. So that
yes.
may not be something that we even have to worry about.
Yeah. I mean, if it is something that comes up like a few times, like becomes really popular, all of a sudden it's like, everybody in the Hamptons having gin Cosmos. Yeah, we'll put it in there. I'd rather not at the moment, but it's really not that big a deal. It just means I have to add a Cosmo key to every single gin, which
it's a pain in the butt unless somebody.
Well, it's a little bit of a pain. It's not the end of the world, but whatever. Cosmo mods, we have an option for her on. So I think I asked this question the other day and the guys said no to Ferrand, but I thought you had Ferrand. So I'll put Ferrand on there.
I think we do, maybe, unless they changed it and I'm not aware of that. That's the only thing, because I like that one.
If they don't have it, I want them to have it, because I like Pure Ferrand orange curacao very much in my cocktails, and it's great for some tiki drinks and whatnot. So we'll get that put in there. Do we have the option for half glasses? Okay, so this is something that yeah, no, I don't want you to go through all that. So this is something that's a little unique for fish. Do you get a lot of these half glass things?
I find as a manager, I'll get like a few a week where they ask to split it off, and do the half glass. I mean, I don't know if any of the servers down there can, confirm or deny if we're getting,
yes,
people ask for a half glass. Do we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I think we get it fair enough. I agree with Christina that, a lot of times people will want to order, they'll have a glass of wine and then they want more wine, but they don't want a whole nother glass of wine. That's when I run into this the most,
or
when they're
sometimes on lunch is two ladies and they just want to split a glass of wine, and then they are doing separate bills. So
Well, and that would be different, Christina. You'd ring in the full glass of wine, you'd pour half into each glass, and then you just split the item in half for each.
Yeah, but still,
Well,
like, there's cases like that, but there's also like a lot of just half glasses.
Okay, so that's fine. I saw that the half glass category came up when we were doing the toast inputs, and I just hadn't gotten around to asking that question. There were only a handful of wines on there. I'm happy to put in a section. You can see this is your menu groupings here. So I can put another one in here for half glasses. Really what it means is that we have to kind of, every time we change the glass lists, we have to make sure that we edit that menu too, which is on our side. It creates a little bit extra work, but I can put a half glass option here. It's not really, is it really, well, it's a dumb question, I guess, if I ask if it's for everything, because it could be. So it would just be for everything. I don't really want to sell half glasses of Prosecco and stuff like that, though.
That's the only thing I would say. Prosecco or sparkling wines, I don't think we've ever had half glasses, you know, asked for. But and the old one on micros looked so funny because we did it once and then never just continued to update it as we got new wine. So it had a bunch of
because we don't do it anywhere else.
Right.
we don't really want to do it anywhere else.
Mostly because of Amore. I think Amore used to do the 6 ounce and the 9 ounce. And so we'd have a lot of Amore people saying, can I have a 9 ounce pour of the max cab? And so we'd have to ring in a glass and a half of it.
Well, so what we should have done then, nobody really talked to me about that, but what we should have done actually is just put the Cortinos in, because you had all the buttons for the Cortinos and we should have just put the Cortinos in. All right.
In toast, will we be able, like in our restaurant, is it something that we could update the half glasses, or is that something we have to send out to you guys? Like before we would have to have Bobby edit like all the buttons. Are we able to adjust that on our end in-house?
Not really. Okay. And there's reasons for that. Part of it is really, without making this a terribly long explanation, is that if I go in here into white wine and I want to add in a glass of something that is an item that could be, this is bottles, but if I want to put a glass of something that is going to be at another location, like the Monte del Lago is everywhere. If you guys put this name in here and it has a different spelling, the programs from the inventory tracking don't read it as the same item. And so I have to put another recipe on there and it just creates more work. So Bobby and I control all this to make sure that everything lines up so that all the backside stuff from tracking and everything is going to work properly for us and not create more work. So there's kind of a reason why we project this to being at the corporate level. But you can do things like in the beers and stuff like that. You guys, you know, like on this draft list, you should be able to edit this. You can take things and put them on and off if they exist in your library of items.
Yep.
As far as new items go, we have to set those up.
Got it.
So yeah, so like the half glass list, if you added in if we added on a new, you know, Sauvignon Blanc or something, we were going to put it by the glass under, you know, the white wine by the glass. Later on today, I'll make sure that there's a white wine half glass and red wine half glass in here, and each of your wines will be. And I'm also going to price it out because it's not going to be just an even split. I never do even splits. If you want to make me go through the pain in the ass of having to pour 2-3 ounce portions, then you're going to pay an extra quarter a glass. Not much, just a little bit though, just an annoyance fee. My annoyance fee. Anyways.
We appreciate annoyance fees, so.
Okay. Well, I don't make anything extra on the annoyance fee anyways, but it's just satisfying to make them pay an extra 25 cents.
Okay.
Well, all right, that's all the questions that are on here. Is there anything else you guys want to ask, or you want to travel around there? You want to see pictures of my dog or something? Whatever you got. All good? All right. Well, listen, I am, as I've said, I am available whenever you guys need. And I will address these notes that we picked up today. But if you have anything that comes up that you are missing or any scenario that you want to deal with, please communicate that to Zach or to Megan, and they have my cell number. And, you know, I've given my cell number out to most of you guys anyways, but if you have something that comes up, just let me know. I'd be happy to change it. I want to eliminate as much friction in the process of ordering and getting you guys, helping you guys do your job as best as possible. So let me know what I can do.
Awesome.
Thanks,
All right.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for everyone who came to watch the video.
Sure, my pleasure. I will post.
Thank you.
Yep, I will post this video up on WhatsApp so everybody has a link in a little bit.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.